It's almost time. The show's about to begin. I hope you're ready. Let the bodies drop. Burn. Cleanse this world of impurity. This world shall be cleansed.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are as excited as I am for Les Masques of the Plague Doctor, Chapter 7. Here we are. With that being said, I hope you enjoy your stay. This is Mask of the Plague Doctor by Peter Parrish. Chapter 7, Digging Deeper. You feel pressured behind your. Sorry. Wow. Oh, holy hell. Off to a bad start already. This is why I need to keep reading. Because I need to learn how to fucking cold read. You feel pressure behind your eyes and the muscular complaints of another night without enough sleep. Trying to blink away your weariness, you shield your eyes and look up at the patches of winter sunshine creeping around the sides of the sanctuary towers. The first shards of dawn are crisscrossing their way across the frosted green of the courtyard, soon to leave a melted latticework pattern in their wake. As you look back towards the door of the main hall, you see the hind legs and tail of a squirrel as it darts for cover. Just rapid enough to avoid the pot, you think to yourself. Passing the well in the center of the grass, you trudge your way up the patterned entrance of the sanctuary hall, leaving footprints in the frost. You take a deep gulp of the outside air, in preparation for the stale stench of disease that awaits you indoors. The cold tastes fresh and bracing, speckling your lungs with frost. Reaching for the door knocker, you ring out a series of 3 heavy thuds. Latches click within. Boop. The sanctuary hall is packed tight. A smell of oak branches emanating from burning bowls cannot conceal the sickly, clinging aroma of decay. You watch as diligent monks do their best to tend to rows of groaning, pained patients. Relatives and family members attend besides, trying their best to offer comfort in impossible conditions. Alongside them, several of your medical recruits aid in tending to the unwell. A monk bumps against your elbow as they hurry to squeeze past, carrying textured blankets. They call out a weary apology, and you catch the exhausted expression on their face. If matters continue to escalate at this rate, You fear the clergy may be overwhelmed by their workload. You look around the room, hoping to spot Marilda. The prioress is directing a flock of monks, trying to maneuver them through the sea of patients and relatives. You hear her gesticulating. You hear her. You see her gesticulating in frustration at the hapless fellow. At one hapless fellow. Marilda, you call, heading over toward her. She turns her head, developing a look of irritation as she catches sight of you. As I know you can see, I'm extremely busy, Jack the Ripper. What do you want? This can't continue, you say, motioning around the room. It won't have to if you'd get on with finding. Hold on. Marilda pauses, directing another pair of monks carrying water to the far end of the hall. With finding a cure. I recommend being more aggressive about moving patients to solitary care. I suggest allowing the monks more rest. Labor should not be worked until collapsed. At present, visiting family members simply stand idle. It would be opportune to employ those hands. I advocate boosting morale with a stirring theological stale about the sage. These are all interesting choices. I guess I should. The monks should not be this tired right now. They should at least get some sort of sleep. If the family do want to visit, it would be nice if they could help out. This would also help out with the sleeping problem, since the monks don't have to work as hard. I don't want them collapsing, though. I guess it would be nice to have the family members who join in help out if they really want to be there and try to be there for those people who are sick. So, how about employing the services of these visitors, you say, pointing out the various guests dotted around the hall? They could do some of the simple fetching and carrying, take some of the responsibility away from the monks. Your friend with the tusks was a staunch opponent of even allowing these relatives in the hall. The prioress replies, Am I now to consider giving them responsibilities of care? Well, I mean, I tackle the problems as I see them, you say with a shrug. It was decided to allow these people to be present whether we employ their labor or not. The risk of infection remains. The clergy are familiar with their task, and I have enough trouble organizing them, Marilda says. I don't wish to imagine the untold chaos I'd unleash by allowing the citizens of Thornback to run wild in the infirmary. They could be given the easiest. My answer is no. Man. Our visitors are here as a kindness to their wilting kin. I will not burden them with further duties. Well, I mean, they could help. Otherwise, we just have to eventually just push them away. We can't just have them risking getting infected. Eventually, Aoko's idea is gonna have to come to fruition if you guys don't. But you leave Marilda to this cyclical toil of her duties. With your ideas rejected, you'll just have to hope that the infirmary monks are able to weather their debilitating workload without too much damage to body or nerves. Attend to your duties. Man, I wish I could have, at least told her after that they should get some rest. The rest of the morning you dedicate to palliative care, doing what little you are able for the afflicted. During the course of your rounds, you see the young sentry, Domhnall, sitting close to Dioda. You see the red-haired lady smile as her nephew enthuses about something you cannot hear, his arms and hands alive with descriptive vigor. Not wishing to intrude, you move on. Depart and find your colleagues. The smell of damp grass revives your dulled senses. sense as you step outside into the courtyard. Patches of frost persist only in the most stubborn shadows, leaving the rest of the grass with the dewy sheen. The well at its center is once again surrounded by a gaggle of clergy, hard at work filling a fresh batch of barrels. One of the monks pauses to look your way as you inhale the air and stretch your arms wide. How goes the extraction? You call. Will we have water through the winter? It's slow work, she replies, but yes, sage willing. If the harsher frost refrain for another day or two, we will have preserved enough. Have you seen my companions? You ask. The boar and the fox. She shakes her head. Your intuition suggests that Alice at least will be working in the laboratory. Wasting no further time, you make your way through the dormitory corridors and down the steps to the cellar. To your surprise, it is the voice of Abbot Quelm that first reaches your ears. Your administration have my support, but there's fear in our corridors. The infection spreads still. This plague strains the limit of our knowledge, as you thought. Alice is present. Mere prevention is not enough. We must experiment aggressively in pursuit of a cure. What could be more immediate than ending this plague? The abbot asks. The look of astonishment is still on his wrinkled face as you entered the room. We were waiting on Jack the Ripper before beginning that very discussion, Iolka replies, nodding in greeting. The Thornback Hollow quarantine may have been breached. This cannot be allowed to continue. Yes. Crown officials are breaching town quarantine for personal gain. They must be stopped. If we are right, the walking death could soon swallow other parts of the realm. The town quarantine may have faltered. Pray to the deities it does not so. I don't know. Either one of these two choices, the third and the first one, seems like a good one that I would probably choose. If we are right, the walking death could soon swallow other parts of the realm. Pero. The abbot looks horrified. Does this mean... We believe some may have slipped through the quarantine, Iolko confirms, putting words to the room's dread. Quelm mouths some words and traces the mark of the sage across his torso. It may not be too late, Iolko says. We know there are limits to the spread of this plague. It can be infectious, as its unfortunate victims among the clergy can attest. But there are others who work with the infirmary every day, whom it has not touched. If we learn of a breach and seal it quickly, our luck may hold. You look around the room as it falls silent. The masks of your colleagues conceal any outer hints of their inner contemplations. The abbot's head is bowed. Our situation is stark, you say. We must pursue one of the leads presented to us. The tavern is our clearest lead? What? How did I missed one? Dang it. Darn. The parchment of directions left in the fog outside the mayor's manor. I think it's connected. Yeah, that's... Wait. The mayor about her? No, if we confront her, she might deny it, and things might get a little troublesome, so... I want them hiding the way to the exit. So, the parchment of directions left in the fog outside the mayor's manor. I think it's connected. I think I'll choose this one. You produce the piece of parchment left by your attacker and encourage your colleagues to gather in close. Here, you say, pointing to quill marks on the surface. This shows the streets around the old quarter, but there's another layer. I thought they may be even older alleys, but now I think they show pathways below the surface. Tunnels, Iolko says. Just like I was told back at the Baron's camp. If there is an underground route out of the town, it could make mockery of the quarantine, Alice says. There are fragments, the abbot says. In our oldest records, reference to an underground used by elements who predate the sage's teachings. He motions with a frail hand, as if trying to wipe away the words he just spoke. That is all I know. Hmm. Well, we should make haste to this location, you say, folding the parchment back into your robes. Alice, Ayoko, please accompany me. The three of you bid the abbot farewell and depart the cellar. Hurry to the marked location. The three of you scramble together some basic supplies, then head out to the main thoroughfare. You keep a quick pace as you follow the scratched lines on the parchment. The scale of the sketched map is inconsistent, as if created in haste, but it appears to be pointing to an area named Ginnell Street, between the northeastern reaches of the Old Quarter and south of the tannery. Hold on, you say, bringing the group to a halt by a diverging pair of streets. You hold the piece of parchment up in the afternoon light, squinting at the faded marks that you can only assume denote buildings and passageways. While we are taking pause, Ayoko says, kicking his boots together to dislodge some dried mud, perhaps we can settle on some kind of plan. What do you mean? You ask. Say we find these tunnels. What then? If there are guards working for the mayor, do we confront them? We don't even have a light source between us. We do, actually, Alice says, producing a lantern. The simple metal cage is intended to house small candles. As your colleague holds it aloft by the hinged handle, you see that it presently holds an unlit one inside. Splendid, Ayoko replies. Now we can fumble our way around in whatever damp, dangerous system of caves exists under this awful place, until we run out of wax and wick. Glad to help, Alice says, ignoring his tone, but I must admit it would be a comfort if we had a clearer approach here. You look up from the map. Let's see. Our aim is to prevent the infection spreading beyond Thornback Hollow by any means. I hope to clear up these rumors about the mayor and see any breach of quarantine. We prove without a doubt that Mayor Sybil Blake is a danger to the town and the realm. Survive long enough to have the same... I don't care. I'm not here for politics. I'm here to help. Our aim is to prevent the infection spreading beyond Thornback Hollow by any means. Badoop. Next. Any means, Jack the Ripper, Alice remarks. Anything we can reasonably... You pause mid-sentence and sigh. Look, none of us have any idea what we'll find, so trying to form a detailed plan is hopeless. Our duty is to prevent the spread of the walking death. That is what we will attempt to do. Straightforward enough, Ayoko says. Let's hope circumstances don't step in to overcomplicate matters. Confident that you've identified this correct street, you fold the parchment back up and point to the right-hand track, curling its way down a gentle slope toward the tannery and timber yards. You hear the swishing of well-worn leather robes as your colleagues find their stride and follows your lead. Minutes later, it is another sound that finds its way into your ear. Distant at first, but it's unmistakable as you move down the road. Raised voices. A commotion. What's happening here? You see the sashes first, a declaration in red, slung around the malnourished waists, worn like bandages around fists thrust to the sky. The crowd of people fills the street ahead, chanting in protest. As you look, more spills from doorways and alleyways joining the throng. At their head, you recognize a woman you encountered at the tannery, Mally. By her side stands Tace, a full head taller than her companion. Seems we should find a different route, Ayoko says. This one's hosting a guild meeting. Producing the map, you try to figure out a way around the rally. It looks possible, but the amount of backtracing would cause you a significant delay. No time, you reply. We're going through. They might have a different opinion, Alice says, pointing to the woman advancing your way. Well, well, says Mally, tucking her thumbs into a threadbare belt. What brings the masked agents of the town to this part of town? she asked, an appraising eye over Alco. Haven't seen you before, Tusks. Taste fails to conceal a chuckle. happy to happy to have kept it that way. Ioko deadpans back. We have urgent medical business, you say, pointing over Mally's head. Through there. Too bad, she says, inverting her mouth in mock sadness. Streets locked down, and it's staying that way until the mayor calls off her militia dogs. No more pillaging our food. No more imprisonment. No more beatings. Turning, she gestures back towards the crowd. You can see some wounded being carried or supported by others in red sashes. Others, you notice, carry scraps of dark blue. Saw 'em off at once, Tay says. They come back, we'll do it again. Street by street if we have to. She makes a shooing motion with her hand. So scurry along. No passage through here. Mm-hmm. If Aviva is here, I know she... Oh, man. I don't have another thingy. Damn it. The wounded looked like they could use a surgeon. I offer to treat them. I'll convince her that allowing us to pass aid the guild's struggle against the mayor. I barge past them all. No. They're wounded to look like they could use a surgeon. I offer to treat them. Ba-doop. You have injured, you say, gesturing towards a limping young woman, near the front of the crowd. If we tend to their needs, will you allow us to pass? Mally considers this offer, glancing back at the wounded. Tilting her head to Mally's ear, Tace adds some whispered comments of her own. Agreed, with conditions, she says. No mistakes. You leave them all in a better state than you found them. I know what you fleems can be like. Behind you, Alice inhales with audible annoyance. Done, you reply. You'll have no complaints about our work. Better not, Mally sniffs, motioning for you to accompany her to the massed ranks of people. Up close, the scene is bleaker. The militia attack has left its mark on many, and alongside the superficial cuts and turned ankles, you find people losing blood from deeper gouges, cheeks pierced by the points of dirty blades, and one unfortunate soul holding half an ear in their hand. You assess the injuries with a balance of haste and care, then begin delegating work to your companions. Pulling what vinegar and alcohol you can from your own supplies and requisitions from the crowd, you assign Alice to disinfect and bandage wounds. Meanwhile, Ioko tends to those in need of more significant surgical intervention. You do your best to keep spaces in the streets clear for others to work, and lending your skills to those who need various lacerations soon shut. All three of you work without rest, but your efforts fall short. The lack of tools in hospital conditions and sheer number of patients are too much to overcome. Most of the injured are patched up to a degree of success, but as you struggle to save those in need of the most urgent care, some perished from blood loss. Gave it your best. I can see that, Mally says as tunics are pulled over the faces of the dead. But the deal was struck. I can't allow you through now. Not when they've seen their kin perish at your hand. Our hand? We tried to save everyone. This is... Alice pulls Ioko away before he can incite his way into danger. You see Mally give you a somewhat apologetic nod as of farewell as you depart in search of an alternative route. Damn. More and crust your boots. By the time the three of you arrest in Ginnell Street, autumnal twilight has smothered the town in oppressive shades of gray. There's a dry cold in the air, and an ache at the base of your fingers. The location proves to be something of a misnomer or quirk of local terminology. Rather than a single track or lane, you find a warren of narrow passageways and alleys, weaving and bisecting through rows of low, tight-pressed dwellings. After wandering their labyrinth contortions for what feels like an age, you found nothing but squalor and the quiet struggles of the impoverished. Perhaps we were mistaken or misled, Ayoko says, peering around another blind corner, leading to yet more nooks and apertures. No, you insist. We just have to keep looking. Looking where? Alice says, gesturing about herself. I'm satisfied we walked this maze twice over. The cold's coming in. We can't remain here all night. She continues to speak, but you're only half aware of the words. Your attention is taken by a dome of light penetrating the murk above the network of narrow passages. There, you say, pointing to the glow. We look there. Follow the glow. The light emanates from a lantern enclosed candle, held aloft by a man in a dirt-covered robes. It illuminates his companion, a man wearing clothing in a similar filthy state. From the knee down, his woolen leggings are damp and stained with grime. If either of the men were wearing the blue of the militia, it is no longer possible to be sure. Cold night for a stroll, you say. They react with startled surprise to the boar, fox, and crow emerging from the darkness behind them. Before a moment, it seems as if they may try to run. Then the man holding the lantern fashions a broad smile. Deities, he says, placing his free hand over his chest. I'd swear you'll not put the fear in my people for fun. The other man stares at you, frozen in place like an animal caught misbehaving. Thomas, says the man with the lantern, extending his arm to give his colleague a slap on the shoulder. Be polite. Introduce yourself to the doctors. Hello, Thomas says as he fidgets between folding his arms and tucking his hands behind his back. Turbot Burrell, the first man says, tipping his lantern in greeting. How can we aid you, physicians? Could start by explaining how your clothes got in that state, Ayoko says. Thomas flashes Turbot a look of alarm. The man with the lantern chuckles, but the mirth sounds forced, and his reply is laced with nervous hesitation. Is the walking death now blame upon unwashed tunics? No, Haller says, but anybody who left town would be guilty of breaking the Crown's quarantine. She points to the damp, filthy leggings. It has not rained today. The Thornback River is inaccessible, yet your legs are soaked as if from wading through water. Turbot scoffs. In the light, you see Thomas moving his mouth in wordless anxiety. The illumination catches something else, too. 2 bundles of belongings sit at their feet. I spare no mercy in exposing the crimes to their faces in the most severe terms. I denounce them as traitors who have flouted the Crown's law. I appeal to their senses of shame by outlining the potential medical harm of their actions. I urge them to confess and lay bare with the guilt before the now. I will go with this one. I appeal to their sense of shame by outlining the potential medical harm of their actions. Do you realize what you have done? You ask them. Every person smuggled out Thornback Hollow is an infection risk to the whole realm. Now look, you can't prove, Thurbert blusters. We can, you say, cutting him off with a firm tone. And where there was any doubt, the dirt and damp on your clothes leave none. Can you even comprehend the harm you may have done by breaching this quarantine? Have you no relations or friends outside of this town? Would you see them wither and die as a result of your foolishness? We're just doing the mayor's bidding, Thurber says, Turbot falling to his knees before you. I had no choice. I couldn't let my family starve. Please, I can prove all this. He reaches into an upper pocket and pulls out a rolled piece of parchment. With an unsteady hand, he offers it to you. You unroll the document with care, examining the contents and signatories. See? In return for passage, she takes everything they own. Land, property, food. If they have any left, we just deliver them through the tunnel. Isn't that right, Thomas? Thomas nods with vigor. It's all true what he says. We're just guides. Work for the food, that's all. What about those? You ask, tilting your head at the bundled piles. Turbot stammers. Part of the arrangement. The last two didn't own much. That all belongs to the mayor now. So you sent your charges out into the surrounding woods with what? The clothes on their backs? Better than most, Thomas blurts out. Well, better than most. Oh, sorry. I should have did the voice. We treat people right, Turber insists. Some of the other guides, well, I don't believe everybody who pays makes it through the caves. His head lowers in shame as he says these words. Slain? Alice asks, horrified. Turbert nods, unable to meet her eyes. Who else does this? You ask. I don't know them all, he replies. It's mostly militia like us, some tannery workers at first, but then Eustace got sick. Eustace was a guide? You can confirm this? For a time. Turbert's expression changes as he has a moment of realization. You will have tended him at the sanctuary. How is he? Near death, Ioko says. He would no longer recall any of this. The two smugglers grimace in silent shock. I think I've heard enough, you say. Confirm their fate. Spare us, Turbot says, begging you. Our lesson is learned. We will never do this again. You gesture for him to get back to his feet. He complies, averting his gaze from your masks. Thomas looks at the ground, shuffling his feet in nervous anticipation. As we have no way of knowing whether those with which you have traveled were infected with the walking death, there is only one resolution, you say. You'll present yourselves to the sanctuary of Oak and demand admittance to the infirmary. Before you speak any complaints, Ioko says to them, consider the benevolence of this decision. Both men keep their heads bowed. If we find that you have not entered the sanctuary on your own will, you will be tracked down, you warn them, and the punishment for avoiding medical observation will be severe. Do you understand? They mumble their agreement. Then get out of our sight, and take those possessions with you. The sanctuary will appreciate the donation. You watch as Turbot and Thomas scoop up the piles of belongings and leave your presence with considerable haste. Jack the Ripper, Alice says, if Eustace walked the tunnels before catching the plague. And then they could contain the source of the walking death, you reply, completing her thought. You look to the dwelling outside with the two smugglers were lurking until a moment ago, which I presume our entrance will lie somewhere inside. Before we do anything else, Ioko says, you now hold proof of Sybil Blake's involvement in the debacle. What do you plan to do with it, Jack the Ripper? Thornback Hollow needs its mayor during the time of crisis. We should not interfere. I don't know. If we get the chance, we will use it to end Sybil Blake's rule. I despair of this intrigue. Our priority is curing the walking death. I guess if we get the chance, we will use this to end Sybil Blake's rule. I don't think that anybody who is this incompetent should be allowed to rule. So, if we get the chance, we will use it to end Sybil Blake's rule. Ioko nods in response. Glad to hear it. I'll stand by you when that time comes. He looks at Alice. Are we all in agreement? The fox mask is still while she considers her reply. I'd rather not be drawn into the eternal affairs of this town, she says, picking her words with caution. But Sybil Blake's actions have threatened the realm itself with a spreading plague. As physicians, we must prevent this from happening again. Let's hope Baron Moreland also sees it that way, you say. Search for the tunnel entrance. The building exhibits no unique properties on its exterior. To your eye, it appears as another dilapidated wooden structure, barely larger than a single-room shack. Just below another modest dwelling in a row of many. You lead the way to the door, finding it hanging loose upon simple hinges. The space inside is the same temperature as the alley. Flecks of straw cover the ground, undulating slightly in response to the icy drought being forced through holes in the crooked walls. Beneath the straw, you see the outline of a trap door. Cozy, Ioko says, his breath forming a cloud. Help me clear this off, you say, pointing to the debris covering the hatch. Between the three of you, it takes mere moments to brush aside the dirt and stalks. You reach for the rusted, dusted hoop of the iron beneath, ready to heave open the trapdoor. The two other pairs of hands join yours around the iron ring. Ready? Alice says. Pull! Together you hoist open the hatch. As the dust settles, you peer over the edge. A set of steps there surfaced below, and in the center, by the wear of many footfalls, disappears down into the shallow darkness. Hold on, Alice says, attending to a lantern. She turns back to you, holding the caged candle near the entrance. Illuminates more steps, heading straight down through the earth and rock. No matter how hard you strain your vision, you cannot yet see where they lead. Sharing a look with your companions, you place your hands on the cold walls and begin the descent. Outside, the first flakes of snow begin to fall. Descend beneath the town. And so ends Chapter 7. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did this story, if you're watching. And I hope to see you in the next stream, because this is the end of this one. But man, that chapter was really exciting. I hope to see you in the next one. That's the end of the stream. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Sorry I'm repeating myself. Just yeah.